In the first interesting hand, we pick up ace-5 of diamonds in the small blind. It's 9-handed, $10 double board bomb pot. The first flop is jack 10-7 with 2 hearts, so we've got nothing there. The second flop is jack 6 deuce with 2 diamonds. We have the nut flush draw. I'm out of position and only have potential for 1 board, so I don't want to get overzealous. I check. The other 8 opponents check. The second turns are the jack of hearts on top, and the 4 diamonds right where we needed it to be. We have the stones. I bet 60. The big blind calls. The cutoff calls as well. 3 of us are going to the rivers. The first one is the 10 of diamonds, and the second one is the 6 of hearts. I no longer have the nuts on the second board, but there isn't much reason to suspect that I'm up against a boat there, and unless I'm facing jack 6, I'll be good on at least 1 board. I shove for about 255, thinking that if I get called by a player who's only strong on the bottom board, then I could scoop the entire pot. Another good outcome would be that I might be able to get a player with a flush on top or a 10 to fold. That way I can avoid a chopped pot. The big blind lets his hand go, cutoff folds, we scoop it, and the big blind lets us know that he folded the winner on the top board. Next we have pocket jacks, under the gun +2 in a straddle pot. I raised to 20. The hijack calls, the big blind calls, the action's on the under the gun straddler. She came all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, and she did not come to fold. She ripped it in for 173 total.
He's trying to make the vlogs.
I make the call. I can't imagine that there's anyone behind me that I want to call since they didn't 3-bet my initial raise. That thought proves to be wrong. The hijack folds, but the big blind tanks, then he rejams. I have 500 to start and he has me covered. Not sure what the hell's going on. There's so much money in the middle though. I call. There's a 3-way all in with a huge pot up for grabs. We all flip over our cards. The big blind has ace king offsuit, and the under the gun player is truly just trying to make the vlog with 7-4 offsuit. The flop is not a good one. It comes ace 9-6. The big blind has us in bad shape. We're drawing nearly dead. The turn is a 7, and the river is another ace. We lose to trips. Haven't been running too well lately, so this is a frustrating one. It's hard not to dwell on the fact that we could have easily avoided losing our entire stack if the under the gun player hadn't reopened the pot and jammed with 7-4 offsuit. Things just aren't quite going our way lately. I switch tables, and my first hand in the seat, I look down at pocket kings in the hijack. It's my turn to make some money with cowboys. Under the gun +1 opens to 15. I 3-bet to 50. Under the gun +1 calls. We're heads up. Flop is 9-7-6 with 2 diamonds. The player checks. The flop isn't ideal, but there are plenty of hands that we're beating that we can get value out of or need to deny equity to. I bet 60. The opponent calls. The turn is another 7. There's actually a good card for us. There shouldn't be any 7s in the opponent's range other than potentially pocket 7s. This card reduced the likelihood that we'd be up against that. Surprisingly, the player leads for 175. I only have 250 total. I'm still beating hands like queens, jacks, 10s, and a few other holdings. There's no sense in calling and leaving myself with $75, so I reluctantly jam, and I get called quickly.
Sure, you got it. 8-7? Yeah. Sounds about right.
Easy game, right? Easy game.
We lose a painful 1 to 8-7 offsuit, and we're down big right away. Here we're dealt ace deuce offsuit in middle position. It's a $10 double board bomb pot. The first flop is ace 9 deuce rainbow. We've got top and bottom pair. The second flop is 4-3 deuce with 2 hearts. We have bottom pair and a gut shot straight draw. Checks to me. I bet 60. The cutoff calls. Under the gun +1 calls as well. 3 of us are going to the turn. The top one is a king. The bottom one is another 4. Under the gun +1 checks. There are lots of bad rivers that could come out on both boards, so I don't want to let anyone get there for free. We bet 200. Cutoff jams for 535. Under the gun +1 folds. I've got a tough decision. It's hard for me to be beat on both boards unless I'm up against something like aces, kings, or 9s. It's only a little over 300 more. I call. We're heads up. The first river is a 7. The second river is a king. The player turns over 6-4 offsuit. He has nothing on the top board. We win that one. On the bottom board, he has trip 4s, which is good enough to win it. If I were him, I probably would have folded to the flop bet since there are so many other players in the hand at that point. It's incredibly difficult to win the pot outright. You really only have a medium strength hand at best on a single board, and you could be drawing nearly dead to a hand like 6-5 or ace-5. Plus, there are so many other holdings that have 6-4 offsuit in bad shape. Still, he drills the turn, and we chop it up. I don't really like chopping double board bomb pots, so we should play another one. This time I've got ace-4 offsuit, and the first flop is ace-king-9 rainbow. We have top pair. The second board is queen 5-3 with 2 clubs. We have the wheel draw and an overcard. Checks to me. I bet 60. Cutoff calls. Small blind considers his options. Then he raises to 175. The action's on me. I could go either way. I think I have enough equity to stick around, although it'd be a nightmare for me if I'm up against a hand like ace-jack of clubs. Ultimately, I rip it in. I have both opponents covered. Cutoff goes deep into the tank. He's in agony and doesn't know what to do.
I guess I'm making a vlog no matter what, right?
That is true.
Can I get on there too?
No.
Just blur him out.
Cutoff finally comes to a decision. He folds, which I'm not too upset about. Small blind makes the call for about 400 total. I hope that I'm good on one board at least. The opponent turns over pocket fives for a set on the bottom board. Glad to see that I'm winning on one. Another opponent says that he folded with king five, so the small blind can't hit another set, and he's drawing dead on the top board. I'm guaranteed to at least chop, and I'm free rolling to win the entire pot. The top turn is a queen, the bottom turn is an 8, the rivers come, the first one is a jack, the second one isn't too bad, it's a deuce, and we make a straight.
Oh, scoop it. Oh, man. That's
Number one, not good.
We get some good luck there, the dealer pushes us a big pot, we get all the way out of an $800 hole in a 1-3 game, we're actually winning a little bit. I've got pocket jacks in the big blind. Under the gun +1 opens at 12, small blind 3 bets to 35. I'm facing people that should have lots of strong holdings in their ranges, so I'm not going to 4-bet this, I call for 32 more. Under the gun +1 calls, we go 3 ways to the flop, the dealer puts out 9-9-7 with 2 spades. Small blind checks, probably wouldn't do that with a hand better than jacks. My hand is vulnerable, so I don't want to see any other cards, especially facing 2 opponents. I bet 100. Under the gun +1 calls, small blind folds, or heads up. I'm going to play this cautiously now. The turn is the 5 of diamonds. I check. Under the gun +1 checks back. I feel like I have him beat. He most likely would have 4-bet with aces or kings pre-flop. Probably would have bet a pair of queens on the turn after I checked. Seems like he has either spades, pocket 10s, pocket 8s, or some other hand that I'm beating. The river is the deuce of hearts. Shouldn't have changed anything. I'm going to bet for value. I put out 200. The player announces a call. I turn over the jacks. They're no good. The player has 9-8 of hearts. He flop trips. I wasn't expecting to see that at all based on how the hand played. We lose this pot and we're back to even on the night. After brushing that off, we're dealt king 10 suited under the gun +1 in a straddle pot. Few players are missing from the table, so we don't have to get through quite as many opponents. I opened to 20. Small blind calls, the big blind calls, under the gun calls as well. 4 of us are seeing the flop. It's queen jack 6 with 2 diamonds. We've got a royal flush draw. The opponent's check to me. Put 60 out there. Small blind folds, the big blind calls, under the gun folds, we're heads up. The turn is the deuce of spades. No help for us. The opponent checks. I'm going to continue to play this aggressively. I bet 135. There are 2 good outcomes. The big blind can fold and we can win right away, or he can call and we can drill something. The big blind lets it go. We win, but it's still fun to rabbit hunt and see what the river would have been. It's the ace of diamonds. We would have made a royal flush. Either way, we win the pot. In the last hand we'll go over, we have ace king suited in the small blind. 3 players limp in for $3. I raise it up to 25. No one likes folding against me. They all call. 4 of us to go into the flop. It's 8-5-4 with 2 spades. We have the nut flush draw with 2 overs and a backdoor straight draw. The issue is that we're up against several limpers, so this flop is generally going to be better for their ranges than it is for mine. For that reason, I could go either way when it comes to checking or betting. I typically lean towards being more aggressive, and this is about the best hand that I'll have in this situation, giving all of its potential, so I bet 85. I can't even get past the first player as under the gun +1 raises at 285. He only has 63 behind. Folds to me. This is an odd situation with the stack sizes. We're not doing great against sets, but we're doing just fine against draws and 1 pair hands. We go ahead and gamble. I put it all in. The opponent makes the call. I turn over my cards. He turns over 8-5 of diamonds. He flopped top 2 pair. Let's see if we can work some magic. Nope. We're drawing dead on the turn. It's another 8. The river is a king, but it doesn't matter. We lose that one, then a little bit more, booking a loss before we rack up for the night.